if you wanted to know the top shelf books that I would recommend for Christian education, I'd have to start with our two books, not just because the National Institute has published them, but I think both books that we've published recently, Pointing the Way and Engaging the Culture, are both great books about contemporary issues for Christian education and Christian schooling. They are edited books, and we've got together a whole lot of really interesting and insightful writers from a whole range of backgrounds to address really significant issues. So Pointing the Way and Engaging the Culture, published by the National Institute for Christian Education, I would say is a really important, two books important to read. The other one that I've always enjoyed and recommend people reading is the book by John Van Dyke, Letters to Lisa. Basically, it's a dialogue between him and his daughter, who's just started teachings in a Christian school. So it's all the issues that come up for a young teacher trying to be faithful to God in a Christian school context, and John Van Dyke, as the Christian education professor, is advising his daughter. So it's a good kind of down to earth discussion about issues involved in Christian education. The other one, next one is Teaching Redemptively by Donovan Graham, and I really love this book because he asks the question, if we really believe the gospel and the gospel of grace, and that's what we're on about as Christians, how does that actually impact how we do education? How do we actually structure our classroom? It's more about pedagogy. We spend a lot of time talking about curriculum, but he's focusing on pedagogy that is shaped by the gospel of grace. Teaching Redemptively. Great book. A classic that I've gone back to over and over again is Al Walter's Creation Regained. It's been published a couple of times, and it is a classic, I think, text of a biblical worldview. But more than that, I think, more than anything else, Walter's brings out a theology of creation which is rich and full and deeply biblical. So I think if we want to understand what it is we do in a Christian school and how we handle God's creation, how we disclose it to our students, and what is creation, what is the full or understanding, biblical understanding of creation, Al Walter's Creation Regained is the book. And finally, because we spend so much time talking about worldview, and sometimes it gets overplayed, but I still think this notion of understanding the lordship of Christ over all of creation. Three books that stand out to me talking about worldview, apart from Walter's, is the book by Plantinga called Engaging God's World, the book by Goheen and Bartholomew, Living at the Crossroads, which is a great title because they talk about living in the cultural story of today, but also seeking to live in the biblical story. And living at the crossroads, we experience tension, and understanding what that tension is and how to embrace that tension faithfully is a great book for Christian educators. And finally, I guess for me, my beginning of thinking about a reformational worldview and seeing the impact of dualism on the church, and then the impact in education, has been the book by Walsh and Middleton, The Transforming Vision. It's quite old now. I think it was published in 1984, but it's still, I think, a classic. It's written against the backdrop of modernism and how the gods of modernity have kind of shaped the way we do education, and in fact shaped our understanding of church to some extent, I think that is a great expose and still worth reading. Transforming Vision by Walsh and Middleton.